Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first TechnoLive starter session of 2021. I hope that everybody is keeping well and had a great Christmas. In today's live stream, we're actually going to be carrying on with where we left off just before Christmas. So, some of you might remember that just before Christmas we were actually looking at a website called Gamefroot, and we started developing our own platformer game. And of course, those of you who are also in the Techno Club are also aware that we are working on Gamefruit over the next few weeks. So this might be a good way for those of you who are in the Techno Club to see some of the things that we're going to be working with in the coming weeks. For those of you who don't know me already, my name is Dan and I work as a Senior Ambassador at Bangor University's branch of Technocamps, and helping me out with today's live stream is my colleague Andy. Andy is going to be here to help with any queries that you have as well. Which brings me to the next point, which is of course that you can get in touch with us today if you do need any help. The live chat facility is currently on the YouTube live stream if you do have any questions, but you can also contact us via the Technocamps website. If you navigate over to the technocamps.com website, you will see in the bottom right hand corner of the screen that there is a button here that says chat with one of our delivery team. If you click on that, it will launch a series of instructions for you to follow, which you can then use to get in touch with myself, and I'll be able to help you with any queries that you might have about today's live stream. Whilst we're on the Technocamps website, I would like to draw your attention to our news section, and what I actually want to talk about is advertised here on the right on our Twitter page as well. So over on our news section, if you scroll down a little bit, you will notice that our Game of Code Education of the Future competition is currently still open. Our Game of Codes competition is a competition that allows you to create a piece of software following the theme of education of the future. And you can use any programming language or any sort of software package like that are listed sort of here that you like. But this is a competition that is open until the 19th of February. So you still have one more month to get your submissions in if you have started them already. If you haven't started them already, now might be a good chance to do so if you have any free time. And all of the instructions on what you need to know can be found on this page here on the Technocamps website, and there is an email address that you can use down the bottom here should you have any additional queries that you would like to ask. So, without further ado, let's continue with today's activity. So, if you navigate over to Gamefruit on Google, so you can either type in Gamefruit on Google, it's normally one of the first links that comes up, or you can type into the URL bar make.gamefruit.com. That should bring you through to this page here. So that would be the first thing that I would like everybody to do now. I will give everybody a second to do that, but remember you can pause the video and go back and sort of go back and re-watch segments as well. So remember, if there is anything that you want to kind of listen to again, or if you'd like me to go over it again, you can either pause the video and rewind it a little bit, or you can actually, like I said earlier, contact us through the Technocamps website. So I'll leave this screen up just for a second or two, just so that everybody can get navigated over to Gamefruit. And remember, do ask questions if you're stuck. Okay, so remember at this point, you can log into your online account if you have one with Gamefroot. I've signed into mine, which is why this letter D has appeared in the top right of my screen. I believe that when you're not logged in, it would display a login button. If you do have an online account with Gamefroot, then feel free to use it. But alternatively, you can use Gamefroot without an online account as well. If some of you watched the live stream before the Christmas holidays and have got a game that's already saved to your Gamefruit accounts or saved locally on your computer, I would encourage you to load that up now. So to do that, you can click on Start Creating and you'll be brought to this screen here. Now, I can either start a new game, which you're welcome to do if you like, but alternatively, if I click on View All Your Games, you'll see here that I have a list of all of the different things that I've been working on in recent months. And this is the game that I was working on before the Christmas holidays, as you can see, December the 15th. So I'm going to click Open on that. And it'll take a little bit of time, but eventually it will load into the game that I was working on before Christmas. Now, remember, if you want to get caught up and you'd like to get to the same point that I'm in now, you can go back onto the YouTube page, onto the Technocamps YouTube page, and we have got that video uploaded. You should find it listed as TechnoLive Starter, and it would be down as dated the 15th of December. So feel free to go and take a look at that. This video will also be uploaded at the end of this live stream to the YouTube channel. It might take a little bit of time, but it will get there eventually. So feel free to go and take a look at that. Feel free to rewatch this video as well. If you have saved your game locally to your computer, you can click on File and Import Game. And what that will do is that will actually launch sort of like your documents window, where you'll be able to actually select the game that you saved before the holidays, and it will load it back up into the gaming window like it has done with me. So you can follow either option. Okay, so again, I'll just give everybody a second or two to get their games loaded up. But I will carry on again in just a second. So if you need more time, feel free to pause the video. Excellent. Okay. So, for those of you who watched before the holidays, what we did before Christmas was we actually did a little bit of programming where we programmed our game, as you can see here, to have a playable character who can run left and right, also jump up and down. And we also had, although it does look a little bit choppy, we did also have a programmed background, which is, as you can see, moving through the game as I move. So it's not fixed in one location, it's actually following my character as I run through the game. So what we're going to actually do today is we're going to add a little bit more sort of floor for our character to run along. So we're going to add a little bit more of a map to our game. And we're also going to add a start screen, as well as a you win and game over screen. And in order for us to do those things, we're going to need to try and also include potentially some obstacles, and also some kind of trophy for us to reach when we get to the end of the game. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add some more floor for my character to run on, so that the map is a little bit larger than what it is currently. So you can move around the map by clicking on the hand symbol just here, and then you can click and drag using the mouse to get to different parts of the level. Now remember, when you are adding a floor to your game, you need to make sure that you've clicked the floor layer, because this is the tile map that will allow you to actually place each individual one of the tiles, i.e. the floor, slightly more precisely. So I'm going to find the floor, or the tiles from my map here. I'll make sure that I select the same one I was using before, and I'm just going to simply click and drag the floor along the game like this. Remember, you can also navigate using the navigation bar just in the bottom of the screen here, but it is easier to use the hand symbol and to click and drag. So I'm going to add a little bit more floor to my game. So we'll add a couple more layers. And then down, going to have a big kind of drop at the end here, I think, where, let's get rid of that one, where my trophy is going to reside. So remember, you can be as creative as you like. I'm just doing quite a basic floor just so that I can go through everything with you today, but of course feel free to be as creative as you like, and go as far down in the map as you like. Okay, it is very, very large. There's plenty of space for you to create your level. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to actually add something that's going to be an obstacle. So something that can lead to my game finishing, kind of like a game over scenario. And I also need something that can act as what we'll call a trophy. So essentially this is an object that we're going to have, which is going to be, once our character comes into contact with it, it's going to be that we win the game and the game completes. So I need to make sure to begin with that I'm on the obstacles layer. Now I'm going to put everything on the obstacles layer, even the trophy object. So anything now that's going to be an obstacle or anything that's going to be a trophy, I'm going to put on the obstacles layer. So if we wanted to, we could rename this layer to maybe being objects instead of obstacles, because this would then be a bit more of an accurate description as to what's going to be included on this particular layer. So whilst on the objects layer, I'm going to add in some obstacles. So I can see that I've got some here in my media menu on the right, and I'm going to add in a couple of spikes. I'm going to add in a few spikes which my character is going to need to jump over, or will end up on a game over screen. So we'll add in one or two more. Perhaps put one here in case we jump too far. Excellent. Okay, so I've added in some spikes, which are going to be my obstacles, but I also need something that can be my trophy. So lots of different options. I'm going to just go over to the part of my map that I would like to place the trophy, which is of course in this dip here, and I'm going to choose one of these collectibles to be my trophy. So I'm going to say that we're looking for this map, and this map was the trophy, is going to be our trophy object. Okay. So again, I'll just give everybody a chance to get caught up, but do remember that you can pause the video at this point and resume it when you're ready. Okay, so now that I've added those obstacles and my trophy, I need a way of actually starting the game, and also a screen that's going to represent a game over scenario and a you win scenario. And to do this, we can add levels. Now each level can be thought of as being a different stage of the game. So even though it does represent levels like you would think of in the traditional sense, which is of course every level gets harder, they also represent the different stages. So again, this can be the game over screen, the you win screen, and the main menu. So I'm going to add an additional 3 levels. And again, these are all going to be blank to begin with. So there we are. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on the Levels tab, which is just at the top left of the screen here. And I'm just going to reorganize and rename each one of my levels so that I know exactly what each one is. So to begin with, at the moment, when the game starts, we're actually starting on level 1. And of course, we don't want this to be the case. What we want is for the game to start on kind of like a main menu screen, which is going to be where we start our game. So I'm going to click and drag it, and I'm going to make level 1 level 2. Okay. Now, in order for these names to make a little bit more sense, I'm going to click on the cog symbol here, and I'm actually going to change the level name. So I'm going to say that this is my main menu, and I'm going to say this is already named level 1, so that's fine. I'm going to say that this is going to be the you win screen, and level 4 is going to be my game over screen. There we are. Now I'm also going to resize them just because it's easier with the way in which everything kind of fits together if you resize them to being the same size, sort of preset size of your screen. Now if you click on game settings here, you can see that the game size is actually displayed here. And if you can match the two, if you can match the window sizes to the sizes of each level, it makes it easier to actually place objects. So I can see that my gaming screen size is 960 by 540. So on my main menu, I'm going to change this to being 960 by 540. I'm not going to do this with my main level because I need the main level to be the same size, because we need to have it as large as possible for all of our different paths. But I'm also going to change the you win screen and the game over screen to all being 960 by 540 because it just makes it a little bit easier to place the objects in the actual on the map, because you can see now that it's shrunk in size, which makes it a little bit easier with the placement of objects. So again, I'll just give everybody a second or two to do that. If you do have any questions, then let us know. But alternatively, we will carry on in just a second. Okay, now I need to add some design to these particular levels. Okay, so because at the moment it's just a completely white screen. Now over in the media tab, if we scroll down, you can actually see that there are different interface options here, and there are also different backgrounds that we can choose to have on each one of our levels. Now I'm going to choose this blue background, which will sit sort of nicely on here, as being the background for my main menu. Now I'm also going to add a button, which you can find from the interface section down here, and I'm going to place that just in the center of the screen so it looks a little bit like that. Now of course we need to program, because currently when I hit the play button up here when the game loads, currently I'm clicking on the main menu screen and nothing is happening. So we need to actually program the main menu screen to take us to the first level of the game when we click start. So if you click on the Add Script button up here, you'll be brought to this programming window, which a lot of you might be familiar with already, but it might also be something similar to what you're used to seeing in the likes of Scratch, because we're going to be using block-based programming, very much like in Scratch, in order to program our game. Now, in order to tell our main menu screen to proceed over to the next to the first level of the game when we hit start, we can go to events and we can use a block called when stage is pressed. Now what this means is that anywhere we click on the main menu screen will indicate that we want the game to do something. It doesn't matter where we click. We could even click on the background itself and it would still do something. Now what we can use is a block from control flow called go-to. Now it's currently set to go to the next level. Now that's fine. However, let's just say we decide to add an additional menu, or we decide to add that comes after the first one, or if, say, for some reason the order of our levels change, we would still want our game to actually go to the first level. So I can actually remove this go to next level block, and from the operators menu I can choose this small numeric operator. I can pop that in there and I can say 2. And what this means now is no matter where I click on the main menu screen, I will be taken to level 2 of the game. So I'm going to hit play, and it is going to ask if I want to save the script. I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to give my script a name. We'll call it main menu button. And then I'm going to hit save. And then again, it will take a little bit of a while to load, but then we'll be brought back to the main menu. And now when I hit start, you can see that I've been taken to the main level of the game. Okay. So that is our first script completed. Now, of course, we also have the game over screen and the you win screen. And of course, these also need to be programmed, but we also need to design them a little bit as well. So for the you win screen, I'm going to actually change the color of the background. Again, it's up to you how you style it, but I'm going to change the color of the background here, and we'll make it, hopefully I can get it to work, there we go, sort of like a dark green. And for the game over screen, I'm going to set that to being red. So, ooh, that's very bright, so let's make it a bit darker. There we go, excellent. So I've now got the you win and game over screens. And from the media tab, I'm going to add this game over background along with this red start button. So that's now my game over screen fixed. And for the you win screen, I'm going to of course add this you win background with the green start button again. Now what we need to do is we need to tell the you win and game over screens that when we select a particular part of the window, like we did with the main menu, we want to be taken back to the main menu again so that we can restart our game. So the code, the script that we're actually going to write for this for the you win screen will be the same script that we write for the game over screen, because both of them need to take us back to the main menu. So on either the you win or game over screen, we're going to go to here and we're going to say add script, and we're going to once again say when stage is pressed, and we're going to use the go to block. Whoops. Now with the go to block on the you win and game over screens, because we always want to go back to the first level, you can say go to 1 and that would take us back to the main menu, But since we're always going to be going back to the first menu, we can say go to first level. Again, I'm going to hit play. I'm going to save this script, and I'm going to say you win and game over screen. Whoops. There we go. And I'm going to hit save. Now currently this isn't actually going to do anything for us because, as you can see, when we land on the spikes, nothing happens. Okay? And similarly, when we go to the end of the level to get to the trophy, again, nothing happens. We can walk into the trophy and nothing will happen. So we need to program both the spikes and the trophy object to take us to the game over or you win screens. Okay? So I'm going to close the game and close the script. So going back to level 2, the first thing I'm going to do is program the trophy. I will just give everybody again an opportunity here to get caught up. So at this stage, remember, feel free to pause the video if you need to get caught up. But I will just temporarily pause just so that everybody can try and get to the same place. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to actually assign each object. So in this case we've got our trophy and our spikes. We need to give them what's called a tag. And this is essentially, in a way, giving it a name so that when the game is running and you come into contact with this particular object, the game will do something based on the object's name. So it's going to know from the name of the object what it is that you want it to do. So I'm going to start off with the trophy object. So again, I'm going to hover over the trophy object, click on the trophy object, so making sure that I'm on the mouse symbol, and I'm going to add a script just like that. And we're going to add a block from events called when created. And what this means is that when the level loads and the object is created, we want it to do something. And from the sensing bar here, if we scroll down, there's this block called add tag name on myself. I'm going to add that to inside when created. And essentially what this is going to do is it's going to assign a name of our choosing to the trophy object. So I'm going to call it, well, we can call it trophy, or we could even call it you win. And essentially this means that now, if we get an object, if the game will know that if we come into contact with something called you win, we need it to do something. So I'm going to, because I know currently that nothing is going to happen still when I come into contact with the trophy, I'm actually just going to click on the arrow in the top left of the screen here to exit the script, sorry, and it's going to say, do you want to save? I say yes, and I'm going to just name the script, we'll call it winning object, but again you can call it whatever you like, as long as it's a meaningful name that makes sense. And then I'm going to click save. So now, as we can see here, the you win script, okay, the winning object script has been assigned to the trophy. Now I have noticed that I haven't actually assigned a correct code to my game over screen either. So that, as you can see, the you win screen has got a script assigned to it which says that I would like to go back to the first level when I click the start button, but I didn't actually assign this to the game over screen. So to do that, I just go to code, and you can see that all of the scripts that I've created are listed here. And if I click on you win and game over screen, I can drag that onto the background or the button, and just click anywhere, and you can see now that that jigsaw piece has now appeared as well in the top right of the screen. And this means now that I've assigned the same script to the game over screen. So sorry to get a bit sidetracked on that one, but that's just something that we needed to do. Okay, so we've now got our trophy object assigned a particular script, but of course currently our spikes still haven't been assigned a script either, and currently the spikes, well, they're just kind of sitting there. Okay, so currently the spikes, they're not actually doing anything, they're just objects. And when we run into them, as some of you might have noticed, or I can indeed demonstrate, when we run into the spike objects, we can actually push them. So this isn't, of course, particularly good because we want them to be kind of fixed in one place. And you can see now that it's currently floating off into the distance, and we're never going to see it again. So as a result, we need to program each one of the spikes to have some code that says that we don't want it to move, and that they are indeed an obstacle which we don't want our character to come into contact with. So again, right click on the object, or clicking on the little script symbol just here, add, and clicking on add script. We can now create a new script for each one of the obstacles. Now, like with the trophy object, we want to say when created. So again, once the object is created when the level loads. We want to add a block from physics called, see if we can find it here, set immovable true. It's under the miscellaneous section, and it's called set immovable true. What this means is that the object will be immovable. Okay, and by saying that that's true, it basically means that we're switching it on. Okay, so there's true or false. True is we're switching it on, false is we're switching it off. And we're basically saying that the object is stuck. Okay, we can't move it. And like with the trophy, we want to be able to add a tag to give each one of our obstacles a name. So the intention here is that every time we come into contact with any obstacle, okay, any obstacle in the game, we want to be taken straight to the game over screen. It doesn't matter which obstacle, we just want to be taken to the game over screen. So again, I'm going to use the add tag name on myself block, and we're going to change the tag name to being obstacle. And I'm going to exit the script using the arrow. I'm going to save it, and we're going to call it obstacle. And we're going to hit save. Now, currently, each one of the obstacles hasn't got a script assigned to it. It's only the first one. So like we did with the game over screen a second ago, we can add the script that we've just written to each one of the spikes in the game. So from the code menu, find the obstacle script that you've just written, and we're just going to add it by left clicking on each obstacle and assigning it the correct script. Again, obstacle here and obstacle here. So now each one of our spikes has got a script attached to it which stops it from moving and which gives it a name, and our trophy object, which is down here, has also got a name assigned to it. Now if you wanted to, you could add the set immovable true block to the trophy object, but when it doesn't really need to be there, because when you run into the trophy object, you'll immediately be taken to the you win screen. So even if it does move, the game is going to, or the change to the you win screen is going to happen so quickly that you're not going to actually see that. Okay? So, as a quick test, we'll hit the play button. So here we are back on the main menu screen, going to hit start, and we're going to run. Now, as you can see, I'm now running straight into the spikes. They're not moving, but they're also not doing anything when I stand on them either. Okay, so that's one hurdle that we've managed to overcome. So I can run into them and they're completely stuck, which is what we wanted to see happening. But of course, we want to be able to also have them take us to the game over screen when we run into them. And of course, also, our trophy object isn't taking us to the you win screen either. Okay. So, I will give everybody a second or two to get caught up. Remember to pause the video. Certainly don't close the video. Pause the video if you need to get caught up. But in a second, we will add some programming blocks which are going to allow the spikes to take us to the game over screen and the trophy to take us to the you win screen. You can also see that someone has written in the chat, bye bye spikes, absolutely. They were just disappearing off into the distance. Okay. So, like I said, we need to actually get our spikes and our trophy objects to react to the character running into them. Okay. So, to do this, we actually need to edit our character script. So I'm going to click on the character script. So I'm going to hover over my character with the mouse, and I'm going to go to the jigsaw piece and click on Edit Script Character. I should point out as well that if you're not seeing the jigsaw piece, it's probably because you haven't selected the mouse symbol up here. Okay, if you select the mouse symbol up here, you should see that individual objects kind of get outlined by a grey square. If you do that, you will. That means that you're on the. If you see that, that means you're on the mouse symbol, and you'll also see the yellow circle with the jigsaw piece appear, which means that you can actually edit or add a script to a particular object. So this script here is actually the one that we were working on before the Christmas holidays. So this is the script that we can use to make our character move. Okay. I won't go into too many details on this because, again, I covered it in the previous video. So if you are interested in how that works, feel free to take a look at the TechnoLive session from the 15th of December. However, we need to add to this script a section of code which tells our game how to react when the player comes into contact with obstacles and when the player comes into contact with the trophy. So I'm going to find a blank space within the script, so down here will be fine. And from the physics menu, we can see that from events, there's this block called when I am touched, get toucher. Okay. Now, I'm going to drag this block into the game, and what this block is essentially saying is that when the player character comes into contact with a particular obstacle, okay, a particular object, it's going to react in some way. The game is going to do something. Okay. So the first thing that we need to program in is what the game is going to do when we come into contact with some obstacles. And we're going to use an if statement to do this. Okay. Now, some of you might be familiar with the concept of an if statement already, especially if you've watched previous live streams or if you're a part of the Techno Club. But the purpose of an if statement is the computer is going to check whether or not a certain condition is true. And if that particular condition is true, okay, it means that the game is going to do something. Something is going to happen, okay? Whereas if it's false, in this case, nothing would happen, but you can use something called an if-else block. So if a certain condition is true, do something, else do something else, okay? So it's about the computer checking whether or not something is happening, and if that thing is happening, it will then do something. Now, what we need to be checking is whether or not our playable character has come into contact with a set of spikes, okay, or an obstacle. Now, we can do this using the sensing block, and the sensing menu, and you can see that in the sensing menu under tagging, there's this block here, myself has tag name. Now we're going to add this in as our condition, so I'm going to attach it to the if statement. Now, what we need to be checking is whether or not the obstacle has the tag name, or whether or not the object, that we've come into contact with has the tag name obstacle. Now, of course, as some of you may know, this block here, myself, this actually represents the object that you are adding the script to. So in this case, myself would be the character. Now, of course, we don't care if the character has got the tag name obstacle, but we want to be checking whether or not the object the character is touching has the tag name obstacle. So I'm going to remove the myself block, and from the variables section we can see this block here called instance toucher. Now, I should point out that a variable is kind of like a space in memory which holds a particular value, okay? And instance toucher in this case would be representing whatever the playable character is touching in the game, in our case an obstacle. That would be what instance toucher is referring to, okay? So the tag name, of course, that I'm looking for is obstacle. Now, what we put in the do section is up to us. However, what we can do is we can use the go to block from control flow, and we have a choice here. Now, we can either say go to last level, which would take us to the game over screen. We could also assign it a number, like we did before, where we could say go to level 4, and that would take us to the game over screen. Or, if you didn't want it to go to the game over screen, but you actually wanted your character to be placed back at the start of the level, you can select the current level option. And that would put your character back at the start of the game every time they come into contact with some spikes or any kind of other obstacle. Okay, I'm going to keep it set to last level. So now, when I hit the play button, it's going to ask if I want to save the script. We'll say yes. And then it's going to take a little bit of time to load. We'll hit the start button here, and we can see now that I land on the spikes and I get taken to the game over screen. And I've got to click start, and it takes us back to the beginning again. And I can land on any set of spikes in the game, and I'm going to get taken to the game over screen. Now, like I said, I can change this, and we can say current level, for example. And now, if I run towards some spikes and I land on them, I'm getting sent back to the start of the level again. So that's also something else you can do. Or, like I said earlier, if I wanted it to go to the 4th level of the game, which would be, of course, the game over screen, I can set the numeric value to being 4, and again what this would do is it would take us to the game over screen when we land on the spikes. Now of course what we need to bear in mind is that as we add more levels, the game over screen isn't always going to be set to being level 4. Okay, it will change. However, if you know that the game over screen is always going to be the last level of the game, it's potentially a good idea to always leave this set to last level, because it means that no matter how many levels you add to the game, you will always be taken to the final level, which is the game over screen. Okay? So, we have actually now, of course, added our obstacle code, but we also need to add what happens when we come into contact with the trophy. Okay? So, at the moment, all that's happening when we're running into the trophy is we're running into it, as we've seen before, and we're just simply able to push it around and nothing really happens, as we can see here. So it just kind of gets fixed and nothing happens. So we need to now add some more code to the when I am touched get toucher part of the character script that says what happens if we are coming into contact with an object that has got the tag name, I believe we set it to you win. Now, to save you having to rewrite all of this again and adding it all in, if you right click on the if statement and click on duplicate, you'll see that it actually duplicates all of this code, and we can just add it to just underneath the first if statement. And instead of course having the tag name obstacle, I'm going to change the tag name to being you win. Now, of course, currently it's going to take us, when we come into contact with the trophy object, it's simply going to take us to the last level. And of course, we don't want to be taken to the last level because that would take us to the game over screen. Now, because the you win screen is the third level, and we can't actually set level 3, there are different choices here as to what you can do. Now, what I would suggest is that you always say next level, okay? And the reason I say next level is because if you decide that you would like to expand your game and add more levels, it's likely that you don't want to be taken to the you win screen every time you need to move to the next level in your game. You would like to just be able to start the next level of your game until you complete all of the levels, and then you'll get taken to the you win screen. So if I start the script now, I start the game, so you can see now that we're running through the game, and we're going to here, and I get to the trophy. You can see that I'm now in the you win screen. Okay. Now, if I wanted to, I could set this to having a numeric value of 3, and that would take us in exactly the same way to the you win screen, okay? Because the you win screen is of course the third level of the game. But the problem is that when I add more levels, like with the game over screen, the you win level is not going to stay as level 3 for forever. It's going to change. Whereas if we added a new level and we get to our trophy and we want to move to the next level of the game, we're going to keep on moving to the next level, and eventually it will get to a point where we reach the you win screen, because it's always set to being the second to last level of the game. So by keeping it set to last level for obstacle, or current level, it's up to you, and next level for you win, we will always ensure that we will always eventually end up on the you win screen, or always end up on the obstacle game over screen when we come into contact with an obstacle. So we'll just do another quick test to make sure that that all works. There we go. So we're now at the you win screen. And I'm just going to quickly tidy up this code. There we are, that's better. So what we have managed to achieve is we've built up a series of bits of code and a series of scripts which have allowed us to program in a main menu. So we've done that. We've added some more design to our main program, which is also very good. We've edited our character script, which has told our game what to do when the playable character contacts spikes or a trophy. And we've also, of course, added scripts to our spikes and to our trophy object that give them name tags, and in the case of the spikes, tells them to not move when we run into them. Okay. So everything that we have done today, all of the scripts that we have added to each one of the objects in the game, has allowed us to build up a what's known as an algorithm. And an algorithm is a sequence of instructions which our computers need to follow. Now, for those of you who are familiar with TechnoLive, you will have heard me say this before, but computers are very, very clever objects. Okay, they're very, very clever machines. However, we still need to be able to tell them what to do for them to be able to do it, and that is the whole purpose of an algorithm. We need to have an algorithm in order to tell our computers these are the steps that you need to follow in order to ensure that you can complete a task successfully. Okay, so like in the case of my character script here, when the game is running continuously, the computer is monitoring to find out whether or not the character is is in contact with an object that has the tag name obstacle, or whether or not the character is in contact with something with the tag name you win. Okay, and it's doing this on a loop. So it's doing this throughout the game. Whilst the game is running, it's going to keep checking these two conditions. And of course, this is done using these if statements. So as soon as it detects that the player is in contact with something with a tag name of obstacle, it's going to send the player straight to the last level. That is a sequence of instructions. The computer knows, okay, if the playable character is touching something that's got the tag name of obstacle, I know that I need to send the player to the last level, which in this case is the game over screen. Okay? And these are all sequences of instructions. Every single thing that you see here is a set of instructions and is considered to be an algorithm that tells the computer exactly what it needs to do from the moment that you start playing your game. Now, one thing that's very important with computer programming is the need to document your code. Now, documenting code is important because it allows other people who might be reading your code or who might be helping you with your code to understand what it is that you were trying to do. And it's also very important that you do this for yourself, because it could be that, for an example, before Christmas we were working on this particular bit of programming, and it could have been that before Christmas I was writing my program and I thought, I know everything that's going on here, I know exactly how it all works, and therefore I don't need to keep a note of it. However, that isn't a very good idea, because it could be, like today, that I've come back to my program a few months later, and I might have forgotten a few months later what all of these different blocks are doing, which is why documenting and commenting your code is a very, very important part of computer programming, because it can help you and others to remember exactly what it is your code is doing. So just because you understand it in the moment, it doesn't mean that you're going to remember what it does in a few weeks or a few months' time. And you can actually comment your code on Gamefroot. If you right click on a particular block, it doesn't matter which block, you can see that there's this add comments section, and you can do this on any programming language. There are different ways of doing it on different programming languages, but in block-based programming languages like this one on Gamefroot and like Scratch, if you right click on a piece of code and click on add comment, in the case of Scratch and Gamefroot, you will often see that this post-it notes can appear. In the case of Gamefroot, you have to click on the little question mark, but this post-it notes will appear. And what you can do is you can add as many lines of comments as you like to explain exactly what it is this particular piece of code does. So in this case, I can say something like, this is what happens when the right arrow key is pressed. Okay, and then I could even do it for something like the velocity. So I'm going to just click on the question mark to shrink that down. Whoops, that's the wrong block. So again, the little question mark symbol appears, and I can say this is the speed that my character will run. Okay, so it helps us to remember what each particular block of code does, and it's very, very important that you do this so that anyone else who is reading your code, and this includes yourself as well, will understand exactly what it is that your computer program will do. Okay, so that is how we can program up our basic game within Gamefroot. We now have a platform which our character can run on. We have a main menu. We've got, again, a moving character which we have programmed ourselves in the last live stream. We have got a moving background, which again we programmed in the last live stream. We've got obstacles that our character needs to avoid, and we've got a trophy object that our character is trying to reach. And of course we've also got the you win and game over screens programmed in there as well as of course the main menu. So feel free now in your free time or spare time to add to your games. Okay, remember, if you do have an online account with Gamefroot, you can save your games by just clicking File and Save Game. You can also change the name of the game as well if you choose to go File, Save Game As. And remember, if you didn't have an online account but you would like to keep a copy of your game, you can export it, and this will download a copy to your local machine. Okay, so to your downloads file normally on your machine, and it will mean that next time you want to add something to your game, you can go to File, Import Game, and it will load the game that you've saved back up. But remember, if you do download the game and save it locally, you won't actually be able to play the game locally. You would have to import it back onto Gamefroot in order to make it work. Okay, I would also recommend as well, Gamefroot have created lots and lots of different tutorials, and if you're interested in learning more about Gamefroot, there are lots of different tutorials that Gamefroot have made, which you can take a look at, and it will help you get started, or it can help you build up things that are a lot more advanced. Okay, so on that note, thank you very much for participating in today's live stream. I hope that you have all enjoyed today's session. We will be back next Tuesday, where I will be working alongside one of my colleagues from Swansea, Jack, on a Minecraft session. So that will be what we do next Tuesday. Same time, 4:30 until 5:30, we will be here. So feel free to join in. But other than that, take care, everybody. And I will speak to you all again next week. Thank you very much.